What was it like to live in the greatest city of the ancient world, not as an emperor, not as a general, but as an ordinary Roman citizen? Not the names carved into marble, but the lives carved into time. The fathers and mothers, merchants and craftsmen, teachers and children, the quiet backbone of the Roman Empire. This is the story of Lucius Aurelius, a middle-class citizen living in the heart of Rome. Over 13 chapters, we'll walk through his world. From the moment he wakes under a tiled roof to the prayers he offers at night beneath the Roman stars. Join us as we explore a day and a life in ancient Rome. A story not of battles, but of balance. Not of emperors, but of everyday greatness. This is the life of a Roman citizen. Chapter 1. Dawn in Rome. The first light of day slips softly over the rooftops of Rome, brushing terracotta tiles with a warm, golden hue. The city is quiet still, save for the gentle cooing of doves nestled in eaves and the faint rustling of cloth as shutters are opened to greet the rising sun. In a modest domus on the Avendan hill, a Roman citizen stirs. His name is Lucius Aurelius, a man of the middle class, a plebeian, yet prosperous enough to live with some comfort. His home, like many in the city, is built around a central courtyard, the atrium, open to the sky and catching the first glimmers of morning. Lucius opens his eyes to the soft light filtering through the curtains of his cubiculum, his bedroom. The stone walls hold the coolness of the night, though the day promises warmth. A servant, a young familia slave named Dama, has already risen, lighting the small oil lamps and preparing a basin of cold water for Lucius to wash. With practiced ease, Lucius swings his feet to the tiled floor. He moves slowly, not out of lethargy, but out of custom. The Roman morning is not hurried. It is thoughtful, ritualistic. He splashes his face and hands with the water and runs a comb through his thick, dark hair, now touched with gray at the temples. There is no mirror, only a polished bronze disc resting on a stand. He gazes into it briefly, not in vanity, but to check his appearance. For Roman society places great importance on the presentation of self, the ritual of the morning. Before speaking a word to anyone, Lucius walks barefoot into the atrium. The Lararium, a small household shrine, stands in a niche, adorned with small statuettes of the Lares, the guardian spirits of the home. A flickering lamp burns there, and Lucius places a pinch of incense into the flame. The smoke curls upward as he whispers a brief prayer, thanking the spirits for protection through the night and asking for a peaceful day. He may also offer a few drops of wine or a small piece of bread. This act is as vital as the rising sun, a moment of harmony between the living and the divine, between man and the eternal forces that govern the Roman world. The Roman breakfast. By now, the household has awakened. His wife, Claudia, appears in the triclinium, wrapped in a light stola, her hair tied back simply. She greets him with a soft smile. Their 2 children, a boy of 10 and a girl of 8, are already seated on stools, nibbling on simple bread dipped in honey. The Roman jentaculum, or breakfast, is light. Bread, cheese, perhaps some olives, and watered wine. The food is not indulgent. The day is long, and heavier meals will come later. Lucius tears a piece of bread and chews slowly, listening to the sounds of the city beginning to stir. A vendor's bell rings faintly down the hill. Somewhere, a mule brays. The Tiber's distant rush is a quiet presence in the background, a glimpse outside. After eating, Lucius steps out into the street. His toga, formal and cumbersome, is not yet required. For now, he wears a simple tunica, belted at the waist. The streets are still mostly empty, save for a few early risers and laborers making their way to the forum or the markets. The paving stones beneath his sandals are worn smooth from centuries of footsteps. To the east, the sun climbs slowly above the 7 hills. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys. The scent of baking bread drifts from a nearby pistrina, the neighborhood bakery. Children laugh and run through alleyways. A cart creaks by, piled with amphorae of oil. There is something timeless about it all, as if Rome, in its vastness, breathes slowly and eternally. His place in the world, Lucius reflects, as he often does, on his place within the Roman order. He is not wealthy, not a senator or equestrian, but he is a citizen, a man of standing, with rights and responsibilities. He can vote in the assemblies, speak in the forum, own land, and raise a family under the watchful eye of the law. To be Roman is to belong to something greater than oneself. An empire, yes, but also a tradition, a civilization, a sense of mos maiorum, the way of the ancestors. Everything Lucius does, from his morning prayers to his dealings in the market, is colored by this awareness. The sounds of Rome awaken. Now the streets are filling. Shopkeepers open their shutters. Slaves scrub thresholds with buckets of water. The clang of metal rises from a blacksmith's forge. Public criers walk the avenues, announcing decrees or festivals in clear, practiced voices. A group of young boys runs past, laughing, on their way to school. Lucius watches them with quiet pride. His own son will soon join them to study Latin, Greek, arithmetic, and rhetoric. Education is a mark of virtue in Rome, especially for those who aspire to public life, preparing for the day ahead. Returning to his home, Lucius changes into his toga, wrapping the long woolen garment carefully around his tunic. The folds must lie just so, too loose, and he appears slovenly. Too tight, and he seems vain. Presentation, again, is everything. Before leaving, he shares a final moment with Claudia. She hands him a small charm for luck, a household amulet. Their children kiss his hand in farewell. It is a ritual, small but sincere, born of tradition and affection. Then Lucius steps into the Roman day, into the rhythm of the streets, the hum of politics and commerce, the 1,000 threads that weave together the life of a citizen in the greatest city on earth. Chapter 2. The city awakens as Lucius Aurelius walks down the gentle slope of the Aventin hill. The sun has fully risen, casting long golden beams across the cobbled streets. Rome, now fully awake, breathes with rhythm. A living entity composed of stone, breath, and voice. The clamor of the waking city greets him not as chaos, but as a symphony. Wooden wheels clatter over ancient stones. Street vendors sing their offerings. Fresh dates from Africa, fine cloth from the East, the bray of donkeys and the clang of bronze from smithy shops blend with laughter, footsteps, greetings. Rome does not ease into the day. It strides boldly into it. Layers of life. As Lucius passes through the neighborhood, he moves among a cross-section of the Roman world. Here, a wealthy patrician is carried in a covered litter, curtains drawn. There, a beggar leans against the temple steps, holding out a shaking hand. Slaves ferry goods to their masters, balancing amphorae baskets, scrolls. The city is not separated by walls or gates. not in the way its people live. They are stacked together like the bricks of their buildings. Insulae, the great tenement houses of the poor and working class, rise high above the street level. The ground floors are often shops or bakeries, bustling with morning customers. Above them, the apartments grow smaller and more cramped as they rise, sometimes housing entire families in a single dark room. Domus homes, like Lucius's own, are found in quieter quarters, elegant, inward-facing, private. The contrast is sharp, but accepted. Rome's heart beats with the noise of all its people, and its strength is in the shared pulse. To the Forum, Lucius joins the flow of people heading toward the Forum Romanum, the beating heart of public life. As he walks, he passes grand buildings, marble temples with fluted columns, public fountains where water spills from lion-headed spouts, statues of gods and emperors watching in silence. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the tang of vinegar and garum from food stalls. A baker calls out panis calidus, hot bread crusted and warm from the oven. Children dart between columns, their sandals slapping against the stones. An older man with scrolls beneath his arm recites lines from Virgil aloud, practicing for a performance. Soldiers in red cloaks march past, their polished helmets gleaming in the light, drawing admiring looks from the crowds. The energy is contagious, but Lucius walks with measured steps. The Forum demands a certain composure. The Forum Romanum at last. The Forum opens before him, a vast open space flanked by temples, basilicas, and government buildings. It is both marketplace and stage, court and senate, pulpit and arena. In this space, Rome debates itself, sells itself, honors its gods, and punishes its traitors. The marble beneath his feet is worn smooth from generations of footsteps. He pauses near the rostra, the speaker's platform, where orators are already beginning to gather. Some are seasoned, their voices smooth, their gestures commanding. Others are younger, ambitious, hoping to be noticed by a patron or politician. Lucius listens, occasionally nodding, rarely reacting. The speeches today concern a property dispute and a proposed aqueduct extension. These debates may not affect him directly, but they remind him of his place in the vast mechanism of Roman life, not as a cog, but as a citizen, a voice, faces in the crowd. He recognizes others in the Forum, acquaintances and allies. There is Marcus Fabius, a former soldier turned merchant, discussing grain prices near the Basilica Aemilia, and Gaius Aurelius, a clerk in the legal courts, hurrying to his post, scrolls clutched tightly. Roman society is tightly woven. Everyone belongs to a gens, a family line. Everyone has their place, but within that place, fortunes can rise or fall. A clever plebeian can become wealthy. A noble can go bankrupt. Status matters, but so does wit, luck, and reputation. Lucius exchanges brief greetings, nods, hand clasps, small courtesies, but meaningful ones. Rome is a city of relationships. Who you know, who respects you, who remembers your name. These matter as much as coin or land. A trip to the market. Beyond the political bustle lies the Macellum, the central market. Lucius makes his way there, partly out of need, partly out of habit. The market is always alive, filled with scents, colors, and sounds. He passes rows of fish displayed on beds of seaweed. Eels twist in buckets. Squid glisten in the sunlight. The smell is strong, but the stalls are well tended. Further along, he sees bunches of grapes, jars of honey, wheels of cheese wrapped in cloth, and sacks of dried figs from Sicily. Lucius selects a few items for the household, bartering politely with the vendor. Roman coin, denarii, changes hands with a soft clink. The market is more than a place of purchase. It's a place of gathering, a public square where rumors spread, friendships are kindled, and the pulse of the empire is felt in the mundane. The temple steps. With his errands done, Lucius takes a moment to sit on the wide steps of the Temple of Saturn. The statue within, veiled and solemn, holds the city's treasury. To the common Roman, Saturn is a symbol of wealth and order, of the stability Rome strives to maintain. A priest walks slowly along the portico, murmuring invocations. Incense wafts through the columns, blending with the light breeze. Below, the city hums, carts roll, sandals slap, laughter and debate rise and fall. Lucius takes it all in, not just the sounds and sights, but the feeling of it, the weight of history beneath his feet, the knowledge that he walks the same stones as Cicero, as Cato, as those who built the very bones of Rome. He feels no need to rush. In Rome, there is always another speech, another market, another errand. But for now, he sits, simply a citizen among many, watching his city live. Chapter 3. A day at the Forum. Lucius Aurelius adjusts his toga as he rises from the temple steps. The marble beneath him is still cool, shaded by the high colonnade. The morning sun is now high enough to cast sharp angles across the Forum, catching on gilded statues and burnished shields mounted above doorways. Rome glows with activity. The Forum Romanum is not merely a space, it is the heartbeat of the Republic. Everything that moves the city begins here. It is where law is argued, decisions are shaped, fortunes are made, and honor is won. Lucius steps back into the flow of the crowd. Today, like most days, the Forum feels like a tide, never still, always shifting. He moves with purpose, but without haste. In Rome, appearances matter. A rushed man is often seen as a disorganized one. The Basilica Aemilia. Lucius first enters the Basilica Aemilia, a grand columned hall that stretches like a marble forest on the eastern side of the Forum. The basilica is not a church, not in Rome. Here, it is a place of business and justice. Inside, sunlight filters through open archways, casting light upon white marble floors where traders and clients conduct their affairs. The air is thick with the murmur of voices, some calm, others insistent, always layered with the formal rhythm of negotiation. Lucius sees a fellow merchant unrolling a scroll to a scribe seated on a low bench. Nearby, a group of landowners argues over a property line, their gestures sharp but civil. In another corner, a magistrate sits under a statue of Mars, settling a dispute between two shopkeepers with quiet authority. Business in the basilica is never shouted. It is spoken with clarity, logic, and above all, dignity. Lucius takes a moment to speak with Gaius Rufus, a grain merchant and longtime acquaintance. They discuss prices, the recent barge delays on the Tiber, and rumors of unrest in Gaul. Nothing urgent, but everything important. Rome, after all, is held together by relationships more than rules. The voices of Rome. Outside again, Lucius walks past the tabularium, the public records office, where archivists in togas carry bundles of wax tablets and parchment scrolls. The scribes, pale from hours indoors, move quickly between columns, preserving the pulse of Roman bureaucracy. He pauses near the rostra, the great speaker's platform, its front decorated with bronze rams taken from enemy ships, symbols of Rome's victories. A young orator stands tall, his arm raised as he addresses a small crowd. And shall we allow the aqueduct to fall into disrepair while our baths run dry? Or shall we remember that the greatness of Rome is not only in her armies, but in her waters, her roads, her stone? The speech is rehearsed, perhaps a little too polished, but sincere. Lucius listens for a while. He enjoys rhetoric, not just for content, but for rhythm, for craft. The Romans prize eloquence as a form of strength. To speak well is to lead, patron and client. Near the temple of Castor and Pollux, Lucius meets with his patron, Marcus Livius Drusus, a man of higher rank and noble lineage. Though Lucius is a free and full citizen, the old Roman system of patronus et cliens still governs many relationships. Every morning, clients come to greet their patrons, offering loyalty in return for protection, influence, or favors. It is not subservience, it is tradition, a quiet handshake between classes, binding Rome together like mortar between stones. Lucius greets Marcus with a respectful bow. They exchange brief pleasantries before Marcus asks how the bakery business fares. Lucius replies honestly, "The year has been good, but the flour imports have grown inconsistent." Marcus nods. "I shall speak to the harbor master. The grain from Ostia must be prioritized. You're not the only one feeling the pinch." It is a simple exchange, but a meaningful one. Rome functions on these threads of connection, woven through temples, forums, and homes. Lunch beneath the portico as the sun climbs higher. Lucius takes shelter beneath the colonnade lining the Forum of Julius Caesar, just north of the main square. The stone here is cooler, the light diffused through long columns. He unpacks a simple meal wrapped in linen, olives, cheese, dried figs, and flatbread sprinkled with herbs. A cup of watered wine completes the meal. Lunch is not a grand affair for most Romans. It is practical, a pause, not a celebration. As Lucius eats, he watches the city flow around him. He sees senators in purple-ledged togas, their faces stern. He sees foreign traders from Carthage and Alexandria, gesturing with bright hands. He sees a blind man playing a small lyre, his melody soft but persistent. The Forum is a theater, and everyone in it plays a role. A trial in the Basilica Julia. As his lunch ends, Lucius is drawn by the sounds of a gathering in the Basilica Julia, opposite the Temple of Saturn. Inside, a trial is underway, a legal dispute between two landowners, overseen by a praetor and a panel of judices, or lay judges. Trials in Rome are public. They are performance as much as justice. The plaintiff speaks first, his voice rising with outrage. He accuses the defendant of encroaching upon his olive grove, of moving the boundary stones without consent. The defendant counters coolly, presenting a tablet etched with survey marks and a witness. The crowd murmurs. The judge raises his hand. Silence falls. Lucius does not stay for the verdict. The process is more interesting than the outcome. Rome's legal system is vast, intricate, and built upon layers of precedent. Watching it in motion is like watching the gears of a clock. Slow, deliberate, fascinating, preparing to depart. As the sun begins its descent, the shadows in the Forum stretch long. The marble gleams gold, the air warm but softer. The bustle remains, but the urgency fades. Business is done. debates rest. The day has earned its exhale. Lucius takes one final walk through the forum, pausing again at the rostra. No one speaks now. The platform stands silent, its bronze rams glowing in the light, a reminder of power both used and restrained. He breathes in deeply, the scent of dust, oil, herbs, and stone. He feels, as always, connected to something greater than himself, to the Republic, to Rome. He turns homeward. Chapter 4. Education and Learning as Lucius Aurelius walks homeward from the Forum. The soundscape of the city begins to change. The early noise of political speech and marketplace chatter now gives way to the quieter rhythms of the afternoon. Somewhere in the distance, a teacher's voice echoes from a shaded courtyard, reciting words in precise Latin, the rhythm practiced and steady. Lucius smiles to himself. He knows that voice. It belongs to Livius Grammaticus, a literator or schoolmaster, whose students include his own 10-year-old son, Publius. Today, like every day, education continues beneath the Roman sun. The Roman philosophy of education. In Rome, learning is not seen as a luxury. It is an expectation, especially for free-born boys, and, in some families, for girls as well. To be educated is to be prepared for civic life, to speak with skill, to write with clarity, to understand law, history, and philosophy. These are tools as essential to a Roman citizen as sword and shield are to a soldier. Lucius values education deeply. He was taught by tutors in his youth, as his father before him, and though he is not of senatorial rank, he believes every Roman boy should learn to think, speak, and act with virtue. As he nears his home, the soft murmur of schoolchildren rises from a neighboring portico. He pauses, watching quietly. A day at school. There is no formal school building in ancient Rome. Education happens wherever it can, under porticos, in hired rooms, or even in the open courtyard of a domus. Today, young Publius and a dozen others sit cross-legged on stone benches. Some hold wax tablets and styluses. Others read aloud from scrolls of Latin verse. Master Livius stands among them, toga neatly folded, his gray beard trimmed close. His voice is calm but firm as he corrects a boy mispronouncing a line from Ennius. The boy tries again. The teacher nods. Nearby, a pedagogus, a household slave assigned to supervise and guide children, observes quietly. Each family provides their own. Lucius employed one for Publius, a Greek man named Hermogenes, once a tutor in Athens, now part of the household. Subjects and methods. In the early years, education is practical and repetitive. Boys learn their letters by scratching them into wax tablets. They recite lists, letters, numbers, the names of the gods, the months of the year. Memory is everything. Students must repeat, chant, copy. Rome believes discipline builds character. Later, the curriculum expands. Boys study Latin poetry, then Greek, always Greek. The works of Homer, Sophocles, and Plato are essential to Roman learning. Philosophy is read in translation, then in the original. Even if a boy never visits Athens, he must know its thoughts. Arithmetic is taught for trade, rhetoric for public life, law for understanding one's place in the Republic. Lucius remembers his own lessons, the dry feel of the stylus, the smell of warm ink, the pride in finally reciting an entire passage without error. He sees the same mix of pride and frustration now on his son's face. Learning at home. Though the schoolmaster leads, much of education happens at home. In the evenings, Lucius often sits with Publius by lamplight, reading aloud from Latin fables or copying proverbs onto parchment. Sometimes Claudia joins them, correcting the boy's diction. She too was educated, not formally, but by a literate mother and a family who valued knowledge. She speaks fluent Greek and has a deep love for poetry. Their daughter, Julia, listens quietly, absorbing everything. At 8, she already writes her name and reads simple stories, though society does not expect her to become a stateswoman or lawyer. Lucius and Claudia agree. A sharp mind is valuable in any life, and Julia's will not be dulled by silence. Higher learning, for the few who pursue it, usually the sons of the elite. Education continues beyond grammar and rhetoric. In the homes of the wealthy, Greek philosophers are employed to teach dialectic, astronomy, geometry, and ethics. Some boys are sent abroad to Athens, Rhodes, or Alexandria to study in the ancient halls of wisdom. There they debate Stoic and Epicurean thought, examine the movement of stars, and write treatises on government and virtue. Lucius cannot afford such journeys for Publius, nor does he expect them, but he ensures his son knows the ideas of the great thinkers, Cato the Elder, Cicero, Seneca. He believes character is shaped by reflection, and reflection is born from study. Philosophy in daily life. Education to a Roman is not a pursuit of personal enrichment alone. It is preparation for duty. The educated man is expected to speak in court, to lead soldiers, to write laws, to advise senators, to guide his household. Lucius takes this seriously. When he hears of corruption in the markets or cruelty from a magistrate, he speaks out, not with anger, but with reason. He teaches his children that Rome's strength lies not just in stone and sword, but in virtues, the moral excellence passed from father to son, from citizen to city. A visit to the library. On some afternoons, Lucius visits a small public library near the Temple of Peace, funded by a generous patron. It houses a collection of Latin and Greek texts, histories, poems, laws. The scrolls are stored in wall niches, wrapped in parchment and labeled with tags. A few are copied in beautiful hand, inked in red or blue. Lucius selects a copy of Sallust's History of Catiline's Conspiracy, a story of ambition, corruption, and the resilience of the Republic. He reads in silence, sitting near an open window as a fig tree sways outside. The words are dense but alive, a reminder that history is not distant. It lives through those who remember. Evening lessons. That night, as dusk settles over the city and the oil lamps flicker to life, Lucius sits with his son again. They read together, the boy struggling slightly with the rhythm of a passage. Lucius corrects gently, explaining the words, asking questions, encouraging thought. Claudia listens nearby, embroidering a border of olive leaves on linen. Julia lies curled next to her, humming softly to herself. In this small, warm room, surrounded by stone walls and simple furnishings, the future of Rome is nurtured, not with shouts or swords, but with language, thought, and the slow unfolding of a child's mind. Chapter 5. A Roman's work the following morning begins as many others. Sunlight creeping slowly across the atrium floor, the smell of baking bread from a nearby oven, the distant hum of carts on stone roads. But for Lucius Aurelius, this day brings no journey to the Forum, no leisurely pause on temple steps. Today is for labor. Rome is a city of function, built not only on law and conquest, but on the sweat and skill of its people. The horologium, or public sundial, has only just begun casting its shadow, but his household is already in motion. The morning routine, his slaves and servants, familia urbana, prepare the day's materials. The youngest gathers scrolls and ledgers. Another checks the storehouse keys. Claudia, though not directly involved in business, ensures everything runs smoothly within the home, overseeing the kitchen, the children, and the house slaves. Lucius eats a small meal, bread dipped in olive oil, a handful of dried figs, before donning a simpler tunic suited for the work ahead. Outside, Rome is already alive. Porters haul bundles. Artisans open shop shutters. Women rush toward the fountains with clay jugs. And through it all walk men like Lucius, citizens with duties, trade to conduct, promises to keep, the merchant's trade. Lucius's primary business is in grain distribution, a vital function in a city where most citizens rely on steady food supply, while the state oversees the unknowna, or grain dole for the poor. His work is both logistical and personal. Today, he visits his grain storage near the Porticus Aemilia, where shipments from Ostia, Rome's coastal port, are stored and distributed. Inside the warehouse, shadows stretch across tall stacks of grain sacks. Workers unload, count, and measure. Lucius walks the rows, occasionally opening sacks, running the grain through his fingers, sniffing for moisture. Every trade, every craft, every service has its place and its people. In a nearby alley, fullers clean togas in vats of lye and urine, scrubbing cloth with practiced vigor. And beneath even them are the slaves, the invisible engines of Roman industry. Enslaved men and women serve in fields, homes, quarries, and workshops. Their lives are hard, often brutal. Some hope for manumission, a legal pathway to freedom. Others endure in silence. Lucius owns several house slaves. He treats them decently by Roman standards, offering food, rest, and the hope of eventual freedom. But even he knows this system, though normalized, is one of injustice. Still, it is the way of Rome, the role of the freedman. Not all workers are slaves or citizens. A large portion of Rome's labor force is made up of freedmen, former slaves who earned or were granted their freedom. They often take up the trades of their former masters, becoming bakers, craftsmen, or traders. Lucius often deals with a freedman named Felix, a skilled stonecutter who once carved inscriptions for temples. Though technically of lower status, Felix commands respect in his field. His work is in high demand, and his children born free may one day rise even higher in Roman society. Rome, rigid as it seems, still allows room for movement, for those who are clever, persistent, or lucky. Claudia, for her part, manages the household finances with sharp precision. She oversees the food stores, tracks expenses, and negotiates with local vendors. Lucius consults her often, not because he must, but because he values her counsel. Her influence is subtle but steady. Like many Roman wives, she keeps her family strong and her household running, the domina of the home, a partner rather than a servant. A visit to the bakery later in the day. Lucius visits one of his regular clients, a pistrina, or public bakery, located near the Circus Maximus. The smell of fresh bread fills the air, carried on warm currents from the clay ovens. Slaves turn large millstones by hand or with donkeys, grinding grain into flour. Others knead dough in troughs. The baker, Tiberius, greets Lucius with flour-covered hands. They walk together, inspecting the ovens. Lucius checks the weight and color of the loaves, the consistency of the dough. He takes mental notes, calculates supply for the next week, and promises a new shipment by tomorrow. The bakery is a world unto itself, hot, fragrant, full of motion. Every loaf represents not just food, but a chain of labor stretching from the docks to the mill to the fire. Civic work and public duty. Though much of his work is private, Lucius also performs his civic duty. As a citizen, he is occasionally called upon to serve as a juror, contribute to public works, or assist in the management of a collegium, a kind of guild or association. Today, he attends a short meeting of his local grain dealers' collegium. Rome's bureaucracy is vast, but these smaller groups maintain balance. They form the connective tissue between state and citizen. Whether you are a senator debating law or a carpenter shaping beams, you contribute to the greater whole. Lucius feels this pride, not arrogance, but quiet satisfaction. He knows that when citizens eat their bread or fill their jars, his hands have helped make it possible. The day winds down. By mid-afternoon, the air thickens with heat, the crowds thin. Many retreat indoors for rest, a short nap, a light meal, a pause before the evening. He has walked miles, checked inventories, made deals, and spoken with half a dozen people. His tunic clings to his back. His hands are dusty with grain. In the atrium, Claudia meets him with cool water and a damp cloth. Julia laughs as she recounts a sparrow that got into the kitchen. Publius shows him a line of Latin he's copied 10 times, perfectly. Lucius smiles. This, too, is Rome. Not just marble and empire, but motion, effort, family, purpose. Chapter 6. Lunchtime and Siesta. The Roman sun now hangs high overhead, casting short shadows and bathing the city in a warm, golden glow. The streets, once bustling with the purposeful steps of traders, clients, and citizens, begin to quiet. Rome, for a time, pauses. Lucius Aurelius, his work for the morning completed, returns home through shaded alleys and side streets, seeking relief from the midday heat. Around him, shopkeepers shutter their stalls. Even the persistent calls of vendors soften to murmurs. The city, like its people, prepares for rest, the return home. As Lucius enters the atrium of his domus, he is met by the scent of rosemary and fresh bread. The household slaves have prepared the prandium, the Roman midday meal. It is neither lavish nor hurried, but simple, satisfying, and shared. The atrium is cool thanks to thick stone walls and high ceilings. Sunlight filters in through the compluvium, casting moving patterns onto the tiled floor. In the center, the impluvium catches a trickle of water from the roof, adding a soft gurgle to the stillness. Claudia, his wife, awaits him in the triclinium, the dining room. Their 2 children, Publius and Julia, are already seated on low stools. On the table, olives, slices of cheese, boiled eggs with a dash of garum, and a loaf of bread sliced and sprinkled with herbs. Lucius nods with approval. The meal is modest but well prepared. The family sits together, speaking quietly as they eat. The Roman prandium. The midday meal is an important moment in the Roman day. Not as formal or indulgent as dinner, but a time for nourishment and connection. Most Romans, especially the working class, eat quickly. Bread, fruit, cheese, cold meat, or leftovers from the night before. For wealthier citizens, prandium might include cold cuts, vegetables, pickled fish, and sometimes sweets made with honey and dates. For Lucius and his family, it is a time to slow down. He listens as Publius shares what he learned about Virgil's Aeneid in class. Julia, eager to keep up, recites a fable she memorized that morning. Claudia, ever attentive, asks about the grain shipment and the day's business. These moments, mundane but intimate, are what bind the Roman household. They are not grand, but they are essential. A pause in the day. After the meal, the house grows still. The bustle of morning fades into silence. Claudia takes to the courtyard to rest in the shade, embroidery set aside. Julia lies beside her with a wooden doll, already half asleep. Publius, ever curious, thumbs through a scroll before slumping onto a couch, dozing within minutes. Lucius retreats to his cubiculum, where the shutters have been drawn to block the harsh light. The room is cool, quiet, and dim. He lies down upon a low couch and exhales deeply. The city may continue to hum beyond the walls, but within this house, time stretches. The Roman siesta. Romans do not view rest as laziness. Rather, they see it as wisdom, a rhythm that aligns with the body and the seasons. In the heat of the day, little business is conducted. Meetings pause, courts close, and markets shut. The Merides or midday marks the midpoint of activity, a hinge between the effort of morning and the pleasure of evening. Even in military camps, a short rest is permitted during the hottest hours. Lucius closes his eyes, listening to the distant murmur of fountains and birdsong. No thoughts of ledgers or labor press upon him. There is nothing urgent, only the stillness of the moment. City in repose, outside, the sounds of Rome dim. The Forum, once alive with voices, echoes only the occasional footfall. Temples remain open, but few approach. The statues of gods gaze out across sunlit plazas, untouched by time. The alleys of the Subura, usually teeming with life, lie quiet. Windows are shuttered. Dogs nap in the shade. Only the most dedicated laborers, builders, haulers, messengers, move through the heat, their pace slow and deliberate. Even the Tiber itself seems quieter, its banks empty, its waters flowing gently beneath the stone bridges. The entire city seems to breathe in a long, collective sigh of stillness. The after-siesta ritual. After nearly an hour of rest, Lucius rises. Not abruptly, but with the calm of a man refreshed. He pours cool water from a ceramic pitcher over his hands and face, drying with a linen cloth. The family regathers in the atrium. Claudia has already resumed her embroidery, and the children begin their afternoon routines, a mix of quiet play and review of their studies. Lucius steps into the courtyard and stretches his limbs, taking a few deep breaths. A light breeze carries the scent of lemon leaves and fresh fig from a nearby tree. In the distance, bells begin to ring, signaling the approach of the 9th hour. Around 3 o'clock, the city begins to stir again. Afternoon simplicity. The time after siesta is gentle, a transition, not a rush. Lucius may choose to return to the Forum for a brief meeting, visit a friend for conversation, or walk through a shaded portico near the Palatine Hill. Sometimes he stops by the public baths, though more often he waits for the evening. Occasionally, he checks in at the warehouse, ensuring that shipments are ready for tomorrow's deliveries. But today, he chooses a slower path. He walks with his son along the Via Sacra, pointing out ancient statues, telling stories of Romulus, Numa, and the early kings. Publius listens with wide eyes, his hand in his father's. These stories are not merely tales They are Rome's memory, passed from father to child, as essential as law or language, food and philosophy. Later, back at home, Lucius joins Claudia on the rooftop terrace, where a small vine trellis provides shade. They sip watered wine and share slices of melon. The city spreads below them, rooftops glowing in the late sunlight. They speak softly of the children, of upcoming festivals, of the old philosophers. Lucius mentions a passage from Seneca he recently reread. We should live as if we were always being watched, and always in the presence of a great soul. Claudia smiles. And do you? Lucius shrugs. I try. They laugh quietly, the way couples do when words are not needed. The rhythm of Rome. The afternoon is ending. The city's breath quickens again. Doors open. Street vendors return. Bakers rekindle ovens for the evening. Temples ready their altars for twilight rites. Lucius watches it all from above, the world moving steadily, peacefully under the Roman sky. For now, he is content. The demands of labor, the pressures of duty, even the weight of citizenship, all are balanced by these quiet moments. A shared meal, a midday rest, a walk with his son, a conversation with his wife. This is the life of a Roman citizen, not just in service of empire, but in harmony with time, family, and tradition. Chapter 7. At the public baths, as the sun dips lower in the sky, the heat of the day finally begins to fade. Shadows stretch long across the streets of Rome, and a fresh breeze moves in from the Tiber. The city, having paused for rest, now stirs again with renewed energy, not of business, but of pleasure. It is time for one of the most beloved rituals in Roman life. Lucius Aurelius wraps a light linen cloak over his shoulders and gathers a small satchel. Within it, a towel, a flask of oil, a strigil for scraping, and a few coins. He steps into the street, walking at an easy pace. The destination is close. The Thermae, the public baths, the baths of Rome. Rome is a city of stone and structure, but within that framework is a deep devotion to leisure, health, and community. The baths, scattered across neighborhoods, both grand and modest, are among the most vital spaces of daily life. Today, Lucius visits the baths of Agrippa, one of the finest in the city. Built near the Pantheon by Marcus Agrippa decades ago, they remain elegant, efficient, and open to all citizens. Though some prefer the larger, more opulent baths of Caracalla, or the sprawling baths of Trajan, Lucius favors simplicity. These halls are familiar. The attendants know his name. The air smells faintly of cedar and steam. The entrance ritual. As Lucius enters, he's greeted by the sound of water, cascading from marble fountains, splashing in pools, echoing softly against stone walls. He pays a small fee to the attendant, hands over his satchel, and steps into the apoditerium, the changing room. Stone benches line the room. Along the walls, niches hold belongings, slaves and bath attendants, capsari, watch over clothes, and carry messages between bathers. The air is warm and slightly damp. Laughter bounces between the stone pillars. Lucius undresses with practiced ease, wrapping himself in a simple cloth. He greets a few familiar faces with nods and polite words. There is no pretense here. Senators, merchants, freedmen, all are equal in the steam. The tepidarium. He enters first into the tepidarium, the warm room. It is meant to ease the body into relaxation, its heat gentle and comforting. The floor heated by hypocausts, raised platforms with hot air flowing underneath, radiates warmth up through his soles. He stands for a moment, allowing his muscles to loosen. The air smells of herbs, likely thyme or eucalyptus, burned gently on braziers. Light filters through colored glass windows, casting golden patterns on the tiled floor. Here, conversation begins. A nearby bather speaks of a recent play. Another mentions a foreign merchant ship arriving from Egypt. Lucius listens more than he speaks, content to observe, to feel. From the tepidarium, Lucius moves into the caldarium, the hot room. This is the heart of the bathhouse, a place of deep heat, thick steam, and purification. The air hits him like a wave, moist, heavy, and hot. He steps carefully across the wet floor, where water trickles constantly from spouts fed by aqueducts. In the center lies a large pool of steaming water. Lucius lowers himself slowly, the heat wrapping around him. He closes his eyes. For a few moments, time vanishes. The weight of labor, of citizenship, of duty, all are suspended in the embrace of water. Around him, others speak softly, or not at all. A poet recites lines under his breath. A soldier scratches a dice game into the tile. Friends speak in low tones, sharing thoughts not meant for the forum. The strigil and the oil. After soaking, Lucius steps out and sits on a low bench. An attendant brings him a small flask of olive oil, lightly scented with lavender. Roman baths do not use soap. Instead, bathers rub oil onto the skin and then scrape it off with a strigil, a curved metal blade designed to remove sweat, dirt, and fatigue. Lucius works methodically, oiling his arms, legs, chest, then scraping clean with practiced strokes. The strigil leaves the skin smooth and warm. Another attendant offers a damp cloth, wiping the last of the oil away. This ritual, more than mere hygiene, is a cleansing of the spirit. The Romans believed that a clean body reflects a clean mind, and that clarity follows purification. The frigidarium. To complete the process, Lucius enters the frigidarium, the cold room. The air here is sharp and cool, the pool deep and clear. He steps in quickly, gasping slightly, as the cold bites his skin. The cold shocks the body awake, muscles tighten, the breath sharpens. But in its clarity there is peace. Lucius submerges for a moment, then emerges, water streaming from his shoulders. He stands, still and silent, feeling the pulse of his own heartbeat, slow and settle. A place of conversation in the atrium of the bathhouse. There are benches, fountains, and small gardens. Some sip wine, others snack on olives or figs. The baths are not just for cleansing, they are for community. Lucius sits with Gaius, an older friend and retired soldier. They speak of simple things, how the harvest fares in Campania, the latest rumor from the Senate, the foolishness of an overeager orator. There is no business here, no shouting, only dialogue, calm, respectful, layered. The Romans value otium leisure with purpose. This is not idleness, but reflection, balance, renewal. The world outside. Eventually, Lucius rises. He returns to the apoditerium dresses and steps once again into the Roman street. The air outside is cooler now. The light is soft, the sky tinged with orange and rose. He walks home slowly. His body is clean, his mind refreshed. Children play along the curb. A vendor sings of roasted chestnuts. A flute plays softly from a nearby window. The bathhouse has done its work. He feels lighter, centered. A civilization of cleanliness bathing. To a Roman is not indulgence, it is order. a daily reaffirmation of health, discipline, and belonging. It is one of the many quiet rituals that give shape to a Roman life. From emperor to artisan, soldier to senator, all pass through the same rooms, all sit in the same steam, all scrape oil from their skin. For a brief hour each day, status fades, and humanity remains. Lucius, like his ancestors, honors this tradition. He feels it connects him not only to his city, but to its values, balance, reflection, harmony. As he reaches his door, Claudia opens it, smiling. A candle flickers in the atrium. The evening meal is nearly ready. His children's laughter echoes through the house. Lucius steps inside, cleansed, content, and whole. Chapter 8. Religion and ritual. Evening settles gently over Rome, and the first stars appear above the rooftops. A hush returns to the streets, not as still as midday, but more reflective. The city softens. The clamor of trade, the voices of orators, the hammering of craftsmen. Inside his domus, Lucius Aurelius prepares for one of the oldest and most sacred parts of Roman life: the daily rituals of worship. Religion in Rome is not a private affair of belief. It is a public and personal duty woven into the rhythm of daily life. Every citizen, from emperor to farmer, carries the weight of tradition. And Lucius, like his ancestors before him, honors the gods, not in extravagance, but in consistency. The household gods at the center of the atrium stands a small marble niche, the lararium, the household shrine. It is modest but well tended, with painted figures of the Lares, the guardian spirits of the home, flanking a central image of the genius, the spiritual essence of the family's male head. Below them rest small statues of the Penates, protectors of the pantry and hearth. These are not far-off deities, but intimate presences, spirits that watch over the family's food, health, and fate. Lucius steps before the shrine barefoot, his toga loosened. He lights a small lamp and places a pinch of incense on a bronze dish. Smoke curls upward as he bows his head. He whispers a prayer, not grand, but sincere. He thanks the Lares for peace within the household, for safety in the streets, for the health of his children. He asks for continued protection, for wisdom, for harmony. Nearby, Claudia does the same, murmuring softly as she offers a small cake of flour and oil. Julia stands beside her, watching, her hands folded in mimicry. Publius joins his father, holding a wax tablet with lines from a hymn they've been practicing. Religion as duty. To the Romans, religion is not about faith in the unseen, but about duty to the known. The gods are present. In the sun's path, in the rustle of wind through olive trees, in the crackle of a hearth fire. They are honored through correct practice, correct words, correct gestures. There is no single sacred book, no weekly gathering in a temple. Instead, Roman religion is a daily discipline, offerings at the household shrine, observance of festival days, and a sense of living under divine witness. Lucius does not question the gods' existence. He does not speak of belief or disbelief. He honors them because it is right to do so, because order depends upon it, public worship and temples. Earlier that week, Lucius and his family had attended a public sacrifice at the temple of Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, on the Capitoline Hill. It was a grand affair, a celebration of Mercatus, the festival of merchants. They stood among hundreds as the Pontifex, Rome's chief priest, inspected the entrails of a white ox, ensuring the signs were favorable. The crowd murmured in approval. A chorus sang hymns in Latin, ancient and rhythmic. Perfumed smoke rose from the altar, drifting over the heads of the assembled. Such ceremonies are regular for the planting season, for military victories, for the birthdays of emperors. They remind Romans of their connection to one another and to the divine will that guides their city. The pantheon of Rome, the Roman gods, are many, some native, others adopted from the Greeks, Etruscans, and even the East. Lucius teaches his children their names: Jupiter, king of the gods, wielder of thunder; Juno, his consort, guardian of marriage; Mars, god of war and protector of Rome; Minerva, goddess of wisdom and craft. There is Venus, goddess of love and beauty; Neptune, who stirs the seas; Vesta, keeper of the hearth; and Janus, the two-faced god of doorways and beginnings. There are also countless local deities: nymphs of springs, gods of door hinges, spirits of roads and vineyards. Rome welcomes them all, giving each its due. Lucius does not claim to know every god's nature, but he knows that each has a place, and each must be honored properly. Augury and omens. Religion in Rome is deeply tied to signs. Before important decisions, marriages, business deals, public debates, Romans seek omens. Augurs study the flight of birds, the patterns of lightning, or the behavior of animals. Lucius recalls the augury before his marriage. A pair of crows flew from the east and perched on his father's roof. It was considered favorable, and indeed, his marriage to Claudia has been long and harmonious. Even in small things, Romans watch for signs: a stumble on the doorstep, a sneeze, the spill of oil. These are not dismissed as superstition, but regarded with care. The gods speak not in words, but in patterns. It is up to mortals to listen. Foreign cults and new faiths. In recent years, new gods have entered Rome from Egypt, Syria, and the East. Some worship Isis, others Mithras. Others still whisper of a single god worshipped by a small sect from Judea. Lucius is aware of these cults. He has seen their processions, veiled priests, sacred animals, torches in the night. He is not hostile to them, but he holds to the old ways. For him, the strength of Rome lies in tradition, in the steady presence of the gods who built the city from 7 hills. Still, he teaches his children not to mock other beliefs. Respect, he says, is also a form of worship. The Temple of Vesta. Every Roman, rich or poor, honors Vesta, goddess of the hearth. Her flame, tended by the Vestal virgins, burns in a round temple at the edge of the forum. Lucius passes it often, offering a silent nod. He knows the fire never goes out, that it has burned since the founding of Rome. If it were ever extinguished, it is said the city would fall. Vesta represents continuity, the home, the city, the line between past and future. In many ways, she is the goddess closest to Lucius's heart. When he sees Claudia at the kitchen hearth, or Julia lighting a candle, he feels her presence. The day ends in devotion as night descends. The family completes their ritual. The lamp in the lararium burns low. The smoke of incense has faded. The house is quiet, the air cool. Lucius stands for a moment longer. He looks at the painted Lares, their serene faces, their outstretched arms. He whispers a final word of thanks. He believes, as many Romans do, that when a man keeps the gods close, the gods keep his house in order. And though the empire may stretch from the sands of Africa to the forests of Gaul, its strength lies in homes like his, where the divine is honored daily, faithfully, without spectacle. Chapter 9. Entertainment and Leisure. The household of Lucius Aurelius settles into the evening. The lamps are lit, the prayers said, and the streets of Rome, though still gently humming, take on a slower rhythm. But rest does not always mean stillness. In Rome, leisure is its own form of life, a realm of storytelling, performance, spectacle, and shared joy. For the Romans, entertainment is not merely diversion. It is community, culture, and celebration. And whether in grand arenas or quiet rooms, it is an essential part of being Roman. Evening at home tonight. Lucius remains at home with his family. In the triclinium, the evening meal has been cleared away. The air smells faintly of rosemary and cooked lentils. A soft breeze drifts in from the courtyard, stirring the flame of the oil lamp. Claudia reclines on a couch, darning a tunic. Julia sits cross-legged at her feet, humming as she traces patterns on a wax tablet. Publius, wide-eyed with anticipation, holds a small carved wooden figure, a gladiator with shield and sword. As he listens to his father's voice, Lucius is telling a story, not from the poets, but from memory, a tale told to him by his grandfather, passed down through the family. It is the story of Horatius at the bridge, defending Rome against invaders, holding back an army with nothing but his shield and courage. His voice is steady, calm, but full of rhythm. He speaks not only for his children, but for the sake of tradition. Romans are storytellers, and history is best learned through the spoken word. Theatrical performances on other nights. Lucius might visit a theater. Rome hosts dozens, some made of stone, others of wood, all filled with crowds eager for comedy, tragedy, or satire. The theater of Pompey, vast and ornate, holds thousands beneath its arched stage and colonnaded porticos. There, actors perform the works of Plautus and Terence, lively plays full of mistaken identities, clever slaves, boastful soldiers, and scheming lovers. The audience roars with laughter, hisses at villains, cheers for heroes. The actors wear masks, broad and expressive, allowing their gestures to carry through the crowd. Lucius enjoys the comedies best. He laughs at the familiar characters, the sharp wit, the way the stage reflects the very streets he walks each day. Poetry and recitations. Sometimes entertainment is quieter, found in the home of a friend, a shaded garden, or a philosopher's atrium. There, Romans gather for recitations, public readings of new poems, speeches, or philosophical dialogues. Lucius recalls one evening at the villa of a wealthy patron, where a young poet read from his latest verses, lines written in dactylic hexameter, echoing Virgil and Ovid. The room was hushed, the lamps casting long shadows. Every listener leaned in, caught in the music of the words. Poetry is not only art, but identity. To recite it is to honor the gods, the city, and the soul. Music and dance. Music, too, is ever present. Flutes, lyres, and small drums accompany every feast, every ritual, every gathering. Even in the streets, wandering performers pluck strings or blow simple pipes, children dancing nearby. Julia has a small cithara, a gift from her uncle. She plays it gently, singing simple songs she's learned from the household slaves, lullabies, folk tunes, hymns to Vesta. Her voice is soft, sweet, and fills the house with warmth. Claudia sometimes joins, her voice more practiced, her rhythm precise. Music, to them, is not performance, it is comfort. The ludi, public games beyond the home. Rome's greatest entertainments are the ludi, the public games, sponsored by magistrates, emperors, or wealthy citizens. These events mark festivals, military victories, or holidays. They range from theatrical performances to chariot races, from animal hunts to gladiatorial combat. Lucius has attended many, some with joy, others with discomfort. The Circus Maximus, one of the most thrilling venues, is the Circus Maximus, a massive stadium nestled in the valley between the Palatine and Aventine hills. It holds over 150,000 people. It stands stretching nearly half a mile. There, chariots race around a central spine, four-horse teams thundering past in a blur of speed and danger. The crowd cheers wildly, waving colored flags in support of their faction, red, blue, green, or white. Lucius, like his father, supports the greens. He remembers one race in particular, when the charioteer Scorpus won by a single length, the wheels barely clearing the turning post. The crowd had erupted like a storm. Though thrilling, these races are more than sport. They are passion, loyalty, even politics. To cheer is to belong. Gladiators in the arena. More controversial are the gladiatorial games, held in great amphitheaters like the Colosseum. Their trained fighters, often slaves or criminals, battle with swords, tridents, or nets, cheered on by thousands. Lucius has attended, though less frequently. He respects the discipline of the fighters, the code of honor, but the violence unsettles him. He recalls one match between a veteran named Verus and a young newcomer. The battle was long, skillful, and hard-fought. In the end, Verus raised his sword, awaiting the crowd's verdict. The crowd shouted, "MIT, let him go." The editor agreed. The young man lived, and Lucius exhaled, realizing he had been holding his breath. To some, these games are spectacle. To others, a lesson about fate, strength, and mercy. Festivals and feasts, at least once a month, Rome erupts in celebration. Festivals like Saturnalia, Lupercalia, or Floralia transform the city into a place of dance, gift-giving, masks, and joy. During Saturnalia, masters serve their slaves, children are given toys, and homes are filled with laughter. Lucius always buys small gifts for his family, nuts, figurines, sweets, and joins in the reversal of roles, if only for a day. The streets glow with lamps, people wear colorful clothes, hang garlands, and toast the old god Saturn, who once ruled a golden age of peace. For Lucius, these moments are more than revelry. They are reminders that life is not only labor, but joy. That laughter, too, is sacred. The heart of leisure as the night deepens. Lucius sits once more in the atrium. The children are in bed. Claudia rests beside him, her eyes closed, her breath steady. A small lamp flickers on the floor, casting soft shadows against the columns. He reflects on the day, its work, its rituals, its comforts, and on the many ways Rome celebrates itself, in stories, in music, in festivals, in races, in song. Entertainment in Rome is not escape, it is communion, with neighbors, with family, with history. Through it, Romans remember who they are. Lucius closes his eyes. Tomorrow will bring new duties, but for now there is peace. Chapter 10. The Roman Home. Though Rome is a city of marble temples and thunderous arenas, the heart of Roman life lies not in the Forum nor the Senate, but behind closed doors in the home. For Lucius Aurelius, his domus is more than a shelter. It is a sanctuary, a place of memory, of ritual, of quiet pride. Roman houses vary greatly. Some citizens live in tall insulae, crowded apartment buildings of wood and brick, bustling and often fragile. Others, like Lucius, reside in a domus, a single-story townhouse built around light and symmetry, designed not for extravagance, but for balance and flow. The layout of the domus, the home of Lucius, follows the classic plan. He enters from the via, the street, through a modest ianua, the front door. This opens immediately into the atrium, the central chamber and spiritual heart of the house. The atrium is open to the sky, a rectangular opening. The compluvium lets in both light and rainwater, which falls into the impluvium. A shallow basin set into the marble floor. Around it, 4 sturdy columns rise, framing the space like a miniature temple. The walls are painted with geometric patterns and quiet pastoral scenes. A shepherd with his flock, a river god reclining on reeds, birds in flight. The colors are warm, earthy, welcoming. From here, the house branches out into small cubicula, a tablinum, and a passage leading to the peristylium, the inner courtyard lined with columns and open to a small garden. The atmosphere within. Despite being in the heart of Rome, the house is surprisingly quiet. The thick stone walls block most of the city's clamor. The air is cool, perfumed faintly with laurel and lavender. Light dances on tile mosaics, scenes of Neptune, Venus, or floral patterns underfoot. Servants move silently. The kitchen emits gentle warmth, the occasional clang of copper. The family moves at its own rhythm, unhurried and orderly. Every object has its place, every room a purpose. The domus is not lavish, but it is ordered, a reflection of Roman values. The tablinum, a man's identity. At the back of the atrium sits the tablinum, a half-open study lined with shelves and scrolls. It is here that Lucius keeps his family records, wax tablets marked with accounts, legal contracts, letters, and names of ancestors. The room contains a desk, a few stools, and a bust of his father mounted in a niche. To Roman eyes, this is not sentimentality, it is duty, a daily reminder of lineage and responsibility. On the walls hang imagines, ancestral masks, or portraits of long-past relatives. Some Romans keep entire galleries of them, parading them during funerals. Lucius owns only a few, but they are dear to him. The tablinum is where he meets clients, reviews business ledgers, and teaches his son the histories of their family. To work here is to commune not only with the present, but with the past. The cubiculum, room for rest. The cubiculum, or bedroom, is simple. A narrow couch, a small chest, a bronze oil lamp, sometimes a small image of a household god. The walls are painted in reds and ochres, with delicate borders of ivy and flowers. Lucius and Claudia share one cubiculum. Their children sleep in 2 others. Privacy in Rome is different from modern ideas. The house is shared, sounds travel easily, but within those sounds is comfort. The rustling of cloth, the click of a door, the murmur of prayer. There is no clutter, no excess. Romans prize simplicity and restraint, gravitas. The home must reflect inner discipline, the peristylium, nature inside the walls. Beyond the formal rooms lies the peristylium, the garden courtyard. It is lined with columns and ringed by fragrant plants, rosemary, myrtle, figs, and roses. A small fountain murmurs in the center, carved in the shape of a dolphin. This space is private, calm, and vital. Here, Claudia reads or embroiders. Julia plays with her dolls. Publius waters the plants. Lucius often strolls here in thought, reviewing the day, or composing a letter in his mind. Rome is a city of stone, but within each domus is this oasis of green. The peristylium is the Roman answer to the wilderness, tamed, ordered, admired. The culina and storage. At the back of the house is the culina, the kitchen. It is hot, smoky, and narrow. The cook, Ties, a clever and swift-footed slave, prepares meals over a raised hearth. Amphorae of oil, wine, and garum line the walls. Copper pots hang from hooks. Close by is the cellar, where grains, dried fruits, and salted fish are stored in ceramic jars. The Penates, the protective spirits of the pantry, are honored here with small offerings of flour or oil placed in clay bowls. Though humble, these spaces are essential. They ensure the family's survival. The gods of these rooms are just as important as Jupiter himself. The triclinium, dining and conversation. The triclinium is where the family takes its meals. It is not a place of feasting every night, but a space for gathering, for dialogue. 3 couches surround a central table. Guests recline on one side, propped on their left elbows. Meals are served in courses: eggs or salad, fish or meat, fruits and sweets. Wine is always mixed with water, never drunk neat. Lucius enjoys these meals not just for the food, but for the conversation. Romans value discourse about philosophy, politics, family, and poetry. Claudia often guides the talk. She asks questions. She reflects on passages from poets. Her voice is calm but sharp. Her opinions are respected. The home as sacred space. The domus is more than shelter. It is a moral and spiritual center. The rites performed here, the stories told, the ancestors remembered, all shape the character of those within. Romans believe that a well-kept home mirrors a well-kept soul. The hearth, tended daily, is the symbol of this harmony. Lucius ensures that his children understand this. They are taught to care for their rooms, to greet the Lares each morning, to respect the rhythm of the house. In return, the home provides more than walls. It provides identity. When darkness falls, as night deepens, the household winds down. The oil lamps are lowered. The last embers of the kitchen fire glow softly. Servants retreat to their quarters. The city outside falls nearly silent. Lucius walks through the house one last time. He checks the latches, kisses his children's foreheads, and sits for a moment by the impluvium, listening to the drip of water from above. This house, like many in Rome, is not opulent, but it is ordered, steady, and alive. It holds laughter and silence, ritual and rest, labor and leisure. And in that balance, it holds Rome itself. Chapter 11. Travel and Holidays. Rome, though vast and layered with marble and shadow, does not hold its people captive. While much of Lucius Aurelius' life is centered in the city, it is not the only world he knows. Like many citizens of his station, Lucius sometimes journeys beyond the city walls, seeking rest, beauty, and the ancient rhythm of the countryside. The Roman year is not only made of labor and ritual, it is also punctuated by holidays and travel, moments where the demands of the forum, the bathhouse, and the marketplace are set aside. These interludes are not escapes, but returns to family estates, to sacred festivals, to quiet roads lined with cypress and stone. In these pauses, the Roman finds himself again, planning the journey. This week, Lucius and his family prepare for a short journey south, to the countryside, near Tiber, a region known for its cool breezes, flowing waters, and villas nestled among olive groves. They will stay at a modest estate owned by Lucius's cousin, a domus rustica, perched on a hill above the Anio River. Preparations begin early. Claudia oversees the packing: tunics, sandals, foodstuffs, wax tablets, and a few scrolls. The children gather their toys. Household slaves ready the mules and arrange the covered cart, layering it with cushions to soften the jostling roads. Lucius inspects the travel permits, ensuring all documents are in order. While citizens may move freely, some regions require notice, and toll stations dot the highways. Rome's roads, the arteries of empire. They set out just after dawn, the streets still hushed, the sky tinged with rose. The Via Tiburtina, the road leading east from the city, stretches before them in straight lines and solid stones. Roman roads are among the empire's greatest achievements, wide, well-drained, expertly paved with interlocking stones. They bind the vast territories together, from Britannia to Judea, allowing legions, merchants, and families to travel swiftly and safely. Way stations and mansionees offer lodging, water, and stabling for animals. Milestones mark distance from the Miliarium Aureum, the golden milestone at the center of Rome. As the city falls behind, Lucius breathes more deeply. Fields stretch wide, sheep dot the hillsides, the air is fresh, sweetened by wild herbs, countryside, and villa life. By late morning, the villa comes into view, a long, low structure of warm stone and red tile, surrounded by orchards and vines. The smell of pressed olives and damp soil greets them. A vineyard slave waves from the terraces above. They are welcomed by Lucius's cousin, Quintus, and his wife, Livia, both gracious and weathered from country living. Their children run to meet Julia and Publius. Laughter echoes as they vanish into the fields. The Villa Rustica is simpler than their home in the city, but cleaner, cooler, and quieter. The rooms open to a wide courtyard. The peristyle garden is fragrant with sage and fig. Bees hum in the rosemary. A small stream flows behind the house, its waters diverted to irrigate the gardens. Lucius walks barefoot across the courtyard stones, already feeling the weight of the city slip from his shoulders. Holiday meals and rural rhythms. The meals here are generous but unrefined. Roasted lamb with herbs, barley bread, soft cheese wrapped in fig leaves. Everything is fresh, harvested within steps of the table. In the evenings, the family gathers outside under a vine-covered trellis. Oil lamps flicker as night settles. They sing rustic songs, tell riddles, and drink cool wine from ceramic cups. Lucius listens more than he speaks. He watches the stars emerge, each one sharp and bright above the open hills. Rome's torches do not reach this far. Here, the sky is ancient and unspoiled. Sacred holidays and festivals, their visit coincides with a sacred holiday, the Vestalia, honoring Vesta, goddess of the hearth. Though most celebrations occur in Rome, the countryside hosts its own rites. On the morning of the 6th day, the family walks to a nearby village where a local priestess presides over a modest temple. The people bring offerings, loaves shaped like animals, garlands, cups of milk. The matrons, including Claudia and Livia, walk barefoot in procession. Bells ring softly. Children scatter petals. At the altar, incense burns as the priestess invokes Vesta's name. Lucius watches, touched by the sincerity. These are not grand festivals with senators and sacrifices, but they feel closer to the gods, more intimate, more real. Bathing in nature, One afternoon, the men take a short walk to a thermal spring tucked between cliffs. The water bubbles gently from the earth, warm and mineral-rich. They soak in silence, the steam rising around them, birds calling from the trees. There is no marble, no mosaics, only stone, moss, and sun. Lucius feels the tension leave his limbs. He speaks with Quintus about crops, memories, and family. They share wine from a water skin and laugh at a joke only old friends can understand. This, too, is Roman bathing, not formal, but timeless. Children and the natural world, for Julia and Publius, the countryside is a wonder. They chase frogs near the stream, collect feathers, and build miniature altars of flowers and pebbles. Julia learns to weave flower crowns. Publius climbs fig trees and comes down with stained hands and a victorious grin. At night, they fall asleep quickly, tired from sunlight and play. Claudia often sits with them beneath the stars, pointing out constellations, Orion, Aquila, Virgo, and telling the myths behind them. In these stories, the gods become close companions, their images etched in the night sky, their adventures part of the children's dreams, the return journey. After a week, the time comes to return to Rome. The family rises early, bidding farewell to their hosts with embraces and gifts, a jar of honey, a scroll of poetry, a carved wooden toy. The cart is loaded once more. The children are reluctant to leave, but Lucius promises they'll return again soon. As the villa disappears behind a hill, Lucius looks back once more. He sees the faint trail of smoke from the hearth, hears the distant call of a shepherd, and in his chest he carries the calm that only open space can give. Holidays in the city. Not all holidays require travel. Rome itself hosts dozens of festivals: Floralia for flowers, Lupercalia for fertility, Saturnalia for joy. On these days, streets are adorned with wreaths. Theaters offer free performances. Markets overflow with exotic fruits, sweets, and wine. Even the poorest citizens are granted a moment of pleasure. Lucius ensures his family celebrates fully, preparing special meals, exchanging tokens, and joining public parades. These festivals mark the turning of the year, the blessings of the gods, the unity of the people, the purpose of leisure to Romans. Leisure is not the absence of work, it is balance, a chance to restore the soul, reconnect with nature, and honor the rhythms of the land. Lucius believes that a man who works without rest forgets who he is, and a man who wanders too long forgets where he belongs. By traveling, by honoring holidays, by pausing, the Roman finds clarity, and upon returning, he sees his city with fresh eyes. As Rome's rooftops reappear beyond the horizon, Lucius feels both joy and gratitude. The journey has ended, but the season of peace, however brief, has left its mark. He is home again. Chapter 12. The citizen and the state. The cobbled streets of Rome greet Lucius Aurelius once again. The dust of the countryside still clings faintly to his sandals, but the rhythm of the city quickly returns. The rise and fall of voices, the scent of fresh bread and incense, the clang of hammer on bronze. With his family settled back into their routines, Lucius prepares to resume his duties, not just as a father or merchant, but as something more profound. A citizen of Rome. For the Romans, citizenship is not a passive status. It is an identity, a privilege, and a lifelong responsibility. The meaning of citizenship: to be a citizen. A civis Romanus is to belong to a world built on law, tradition, and shared values. It means having a voice in the assemblies, protection under the law, and the right to marry, own property, and pass inheritance to one's children. Lucius knows these rights well. He was born into them, his father before him, a soldier, his grandfather, a small farmer, granted citizenship during the social war. His own children will inherit this standing. But with these privileges come obligations, the assemblies, and the vote. In the early morning, Lucius walks to the Campus Martis, where a comitia, or citizen assembly, is being held. Though emperors now rule in name and power, the republic's structures still stand, and participation still matters. The Centuriate Assembly is meeting today to vote on a new law concerning grain imports. It's a slow process. Citizens are divided by class and wealth into centuries, each casting a collective vote. Lucius's century is one of the middle ranks, not among the first to vote, but still with weight. He waits in line, surrounded by others, farmers in simple tunics, veterans with creased brows, scribes and tradesmen. The sun rises higher. An official reads the proposal aloud from a scroll. Murmurs pass through the crowd. A man nearby argues for the measure, citing high prices. Another mutters that too much power rests with foreign traders. When it is his turn, Lucius steps forward and places his tablet into the voting urn. It is a small act, quiet but meaningful. The law and the courts. Later that week, Lucius is summoned to serve as a juror in a minor civil trial. It concerns a property dispute between two neighboring shopkeepers. The court meets in a basilica near the Forum, where the magistrate presides in his white toga with a purple stripe. He takes his seat with other laymen, listening carefully as the parties present their cases. Supported by advocati, trained speakers who weave argument with law and persuasion. Lucius considers the evidence. He listens not only to words, but to tone, gesture, and silence. By the end of the afternoon, the panel of jurors delivers its judgment in favor of the defendant. The process is orderly, respectful. There is no shouting, no contempt. To sit in judgment is to serve the city. Lucius does not take it lightly. The Roman census every 5 years. Roman citizens must present themselves to the censors, officials tasked with maintaining records of the population, wealth, and moral standing of the people. Lucius recalls his last census. He stood in the Forum with Claudia at his side, declaring his name, lineage, household members, and property, a modest sum, but respectable. The censors assessed his dignitas and gravitas, his public reputation and personal virtue. Such evaluations are not punitive. They are foundational. They ensure that each citizen remains visible and accountable within the republic. The census reminds Lucius of his place, not in pride, but in purpose. Military service and the past, though Lucius is now past the age of service. He remembers his years in the auxiliary forces posted in Dalmatia. There, among hills and stone forts, he marched with other young men, guarded Roman roads, and learned the discipline that has shaped his life. Military service is a rite of passage. For centuries, it was required for citizenship. Now, it remains a mark of honor. Even in peace, the Roman soldier is revered, his name remembered on tablets, his body laid in marked graves along the roads outside the city. Lucius keeps his old gladius in a chest in the tablinum. He shows it to Publius from time to time, not to boast, but to teach. To protect Rome, he says, is to protect everything. Our homes, our gods, our laws. Serving in the collegium within his trade, Lucius is also a member of a collegium, a guild of grain merchants, who meet regularly to discuss prices, supply routes, and legal issues. The Collegium operates under official recognition and even provides funeral benefits for its members. As a respected member, Lucius occasionally mediates disputes and helps settle debts. These local duties, though less visible than voting or court service, are the threads of civic life. They bind the community together with trust and fairness. He has mentored younger merchants, helped a widowed client avoid debt, and once helped organize a donation to support fire relief in a nearby district. These acts are not recorded in marble, but they are remembered in nods on the street, in quiet gratitude. The ideal of the Roman citizen, Lucius, reflects often on what it means to be a good Roman, not simply to obey laws, but to live by example, with modesty, strength, and reverence. The philosopher Cicero once wrote, "The whole glory of virtue is in activity." Lucius believes this deeply. Whether through voting, serving, building, or guiding, the citizen participates not in government alone, but in the life of the city itself. The mos maiorum, the customs of the ancestors, still guide him. Honor, loyalty, public service, self-restraint. He teaches his children not just what Rome is, but why it endures. At the Temple of Concord, one afternoon, Lucius walks alone to the Temple of Concord, built to celebrate unity between classes. Its steps are quiet, its columns bathed in sunlight. He sits beneath the portico, watching the forum below, people moving with purpose, voices rising and falling like birds over water. He sees a young man reading from a scroll, a woman teaching her daughter to count, a magistrate walking with a foreign envoy. Here, he thinks, is the promise of Rome, a city where many paths meet, and all citizens, rich or poor, soldier or merchant, senator or craftsman, are held together by shared responsibility. It is not perfection, it is effort, and that is what makes it noble. Evening reflections. That night, Lucius shares a simple meal with his family. As they talk, Publius asks what it means to serve the Republic. Lucius pauses, then replies, "To serve the Republic is to care about others, even when no one sees it, to vote, even if your vote is small, to help a neighbor, to teach a child, to keep the gods close, the laws respected, and your promises kept." Claudia smiles softly, Julia nods, half understanding. Publius thinks carefully and returns to his food. Outside, Rome glows beneath the stars, the eternal city, built not just of stone and power, but of citizens, quiet, constant, and steadfast. Chapter 13. Nightfall in Rome. Evening has descended upon the city of Rome. The sun has dipped beyond the western hills, casting its last amber light across the rooftops, and now the sky hangs in a soft velvet blue, scattered with early stars. In the house of Lucius Aurelius, the lamps are lit. Thin trails of smoke rise from the oil flames, flickering against painted walls. A calm settles over the household, not silence, but the contented hush of a long, full day drawing to its close. The final tasks of the day. In the Collina, the last of the dishes are cleaned. The cook sets aside a portion of bread and beans for the morning. A house slave dampens the hearth embers and closes the shutters to keep out the night's chill. Lucius walks slowly through his home, checking locks, snuffing unused lamps. In the atrium, he stops at the Lararium, the family shrine. He lights one more stick of incense, a final offering to the Lares, thanking them for a day well lived. The children have already changed into sleeping tunics. Julia curls up with a doll wrapped in linen, while Publius scribbles his last lines on a wax tablet by lamplight. Claudia gently gathers his things and guides him to bed. These small moments, the hush of footsteps on tile, the rustle of linen, the quiet murmur of bedtime prayers, form the last chords of the day's symphony. The sounds of a Roman night outside, the sounds of the city shift, the shouting of vendors is gone. The clang of carts and hoofbeats has softened. In its place, softer sounds emerge. The low hum of conversation behind garden walls, the distant laughter of tavern-goers, the hoot of an owl over the Subura. From the rooftop terrace, Lucius gazes out at Rome under starlight. Torchlight flickers in alleyways. The Tiber glistens like a silver ribbon. Somewhere far off, a lyre is strummed, its tune floating on the breeze. The city, though never fully asleep, now speaks more softly. Security and the watch. Rome, grand though it is, carries dangers in its shadows. At night, vigils. Rome's firemen and night watchmen patrol the streets with torches and clubs, guarding against thieves and flames alike. Lucius sees their glow pass down the road, their silhouettes steady and deliberate. Their presence, though rarely needed in his neighborhood, brings comfort. Fires, especially in the wooden insulae, are a constant threat. He remembers tales from his grandfather of the great fire during Nero's reign, how it raced across rooftops like lightning. The domus is a haven, but it is protected through vigilance. Late-night pleasures. Not all Romans retreat at dusk. Some take to the streets. Philosophers and students debating in porticos. Old friends sipping wine at corner taverns. Lovers walking beneath cypress trees in the gardens of Sallust. In wealthier homes, dinner parties linger into the night. Guests recline under painted ceilings as musicians play. Slaves pour wine into silver cups, and poets recite verses by candlelight. Lucius attends such gatherings on occasion, but tonight he stays within his walls, content with the rhythm of domestic quiet. Reflections in the tablinum. Before retiring, Lucius stops in the tablinum, his study, where the household scrolls are kept. The room is dim but familiar. He glances over ledgers, grain tallies, loan records, correspondence. He does not dwell long. The numbers are sound. The house is at peace. On the wall, the bust of his father watches over the room. Beneath it, a small wooden box holds family records, birth dates, names of ancestors, notes from his grandfather in faded ink. Lucius opens it briefly, touches the edge of an old tablet, and closes it again. In these objects, time folds inward. Rome is ancient, but the Roman family remembers. The bedroom, a chamber of rest. In the cubiculum, Claudia has already prepared the bed, a low couch with wool blankets, soft cushions, and a small ceramic lamp glowing at the bedside. She turns as Lucius enters, greeting him with a quiet smile. No words are needed. The day is complete. They lie side by side, the weight of the night pressing down gently. The room is still. Outside, a breeze carries the scent of olives and fig leaves. Lucius listens. The breath of his wife, the faint creak of the rafters, the distant rhythm of hooves on cobbled roads. These sounds lull him like waves beneath a boat. Dreams and the eternal city. As sleep takes him, his mind wanders, not to dreams of conquest or grandeur, but to the simple symbols of his life. His son laughing in the garden, Julia lighting the household shrine, Claudia reading by lamplight, the forum at sunrise, a warm loaf in the baker's hand, the rustle of the toga, the trickle of water into the impluvium. These are not fleeting memories. They are anchors, reminders of who he is, of what it means to be Roman. Rome is built of stone and road, of law and legion, but it is held together by these quieter things, by homes, by rituals, by love, by lives like Lucius's unseen, by history, yet forming its foundation. The night deepens. Midnight comes. The moon watches over the rooftops. The gods are silent in their temples. The fires are out. The vigils make their final rounds. In his sleep, Lucius does not stir. The worries of the day are folded away. The pulse of the city beats gently, steadily, through the walls of every home. Rome breathes, and within it, so does he.